We have to have it before a certain date in November.
Okay, should be good.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, all right, I'd like to, call this meeting to order and ask that a chairman be elected.
I make a motion that Larry Vincent's the chairman.
Second. Oh, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Larry, you have
Does
it.
that one have to be a roll call?
Thank you, Donnell. They all have to be roll call.
So should I do a roll call then?
Yeah, they all have to be. I don't know.
Okay,
But you can just mark it down as everybody says.
okay.
Have fun on that one.
Thank you, Donnell. See ya.
Want to start with the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Sure.
I think we should, don't you?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Born and unborn.
No.
Let's see, clerk and auditor to report on the financial condition of the county. And
Yes.
there was a, you handed out a, did you hand out? Yeah.
Yeah.
Statement of revenues and expenditures.
Yes, and I'll let Donnell, I'll let Kristen go over that, sorry.
It's just a snapshot in time, so it's as of, September 30th of this year, kind of where we're at as far as revenues and expenditures in the funds that currently have salaries in them is the ones that I ran. As you can see, cash balances in all of those funds are healthy.
Any questions of Kristen on the financial condition of the county?
And Larry, I'm just gonna note the other piece of paper that you guys have. I just surveyed other first and second class counties. These are the ones that responded with what their current salaries are.
Okay. Do we want to talk about salaries first or COLAs since the sheriff isn't here yet?
Cola.
Okay. I'll open the floor for discussion on the COLA.
Can I just make
We
a
ha-
motion?
Sure.
I motion that we continue to take the same cola as the county employees.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I feel you're ready to vote.
Roll call. Okay, so Harry,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
Jeff,
No.
Chris. Kristen,
Yes.
Larry,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
is Lon,
No.
Ralph,
Aye.
Judy. Aye. Who is not, Eric.
Aye.
Ed said to vote no. Ed. Okay. That didn't take long. Discussion of elected official salaries. Does anybody want to, do you want to by chance say anything about this salary schedule you passed out?
I mean, we did do a calculation at the bottom that does, total salaries as a percentage of assessed valuation. And then, as a dollar amount per capita. Just to kind of give you a comparison, since all the counties are slightly different on assessed valuation and population, those are both at the bottom. And then the counties we're missing are listed there as well, so Callaway, Greene, Jasper, Johnson, Lafayette, and Taney are the ones that didn't respond. You will see a couple of fourth class counties in there. What I did was I surveyed all of the ones that have auditors. So there are a few counties that are fourth class that operate under the rules of a second class, so I included them if they responded. But otherwise it should be first and second class counties.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, Kristen, under Cole, 4.3% of the total assessed valuation goes to our salaries.
Right, so if you take the total amount of salaries without the sheriff or the coroner, because we
Correct.
don't have a coroner, it's just taking that calculation of what percentage of our assessed valuation is compared to total salaries for
Okay.
elected officials. So I have another handout if you guys wanna look at it. It's just the, copy of the statute 50.343. That's what we used when we did the calculation in 16 as far as the table of where we pulled the base salary. One for you.
Have one.
You have one?
I have one. Ralph was kind enough to hand me one.
Yeah,
I'll
extra,
hand him one back.
extra.
I don't need it.
Thank you.
I know the last time, got it. Last time we had salary commission meeting, we talked about the possibility of using our lobbyists to go over to the legislature and have that table extended, so it extends beyond the current assessed valuation that's at the top. We didn't get that done in the last 2 years, obviously. But I did add the last page of that, is if you would extend that table out, what that would look like.
Oh, wait, Kristen, you did all the work.
I'm a numbers person, I like more information.
And these are the bases.
Yes, that's the base salary, so that doesn't include the COLAs that we got between there. So the base salary previously would have been 59. Cause we would have been over 1.3 billion. But this year we will go over 1.5 billion in assessed valuation for 2021. So if the scale went further, we would have went up $2,000 in base salary. That makes sense?
Everybody following that? Any other discussion on the salaries, or is there a motion? Anybody wanna throw something out there to talk about, or?
I do have a comment, even though the two parties I'm gonna comment on are not here, but since the state legislature removed two parties off the board as far as it affecting their salaries, I don't think they should have a vote in it, even though the state, I didn't know he was here! Even though they still have that as part of the legislation, I just think they did a poor job and didn't clean it up.
Well, there's two different statutes on that. There's one that addresses who all is on the salary commission, and there's one who the salary commission affects. And you're right, I agree with you.
That means you won't get arrested on the way home tonight.
Not tonight.
Maybe tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow, we don't know.
So is there any motion? Anybody proposing anything, or? Any further discussion?
So help me understand, and keep in mind, you know I'm new and I know Harry is new. But, so if the legislators are legislating salaries for the county sheriffs and the county prosecuting attorneys, why don't they do that for all us elected officials?
That would be nice.
Because they have better lobbyists than we have.
Because, I mean, I don't really have a perspective, one that I'm comfortable with yet on this.
Well, I guess prosecutors were taken out of it a couple of years ago,
Yeah,
four,
before law.
5, 6 years ago,
it's been longer than that.
Longer than that.
longer than that.
Mhm.
There's been talk for years, my recollection, of doing something to this for all elected officials, and the sheriffs have been very effective at making their point with the legislature, and this isn't something they just started last year when it got passed. Right. Last year or this year when it passed. They've been working on it for years and years. We really haven't, I don't know that any other, I know the collectors haven't organized to do something. I'm assuming that the clerks and recorders and auditors and public administrators and assessors and treasurers haven't pushed anything either. We, as the salary commission, have talked about this schedule several times, that we needed to try to work with our legislators to get them to
At least extend the table.
extend this scale, because to a certain degree, nobody wants to come in here and say, give me a raise. But if you follow this schedule, it's basically shows that your county is growing, your assessed valuation is up, your county's growing, and that to a degree you've earned a better salary because you have more responsibilities because of the growth in your county. So, and I think that's what, when Kristen shows us this here, if the salary commission chose to follow this and keep this as an ongoing method for us, it only becomes an increase when you have to have 150 million growth in assessed value to go from one level to the next, so. So obviously, it took us years to get from where this schedule starts out at to where we're at now.
Wouldn't it be consistent to continue on with that pay and correlating increase in assessed valuation, even if the scale, so to speak, in the statute, is no longer current? Wouldn't it be appropriate for the salary commission to consider just continuing on with an appropriate incremental step in salary as our assessed valuation also has increased? Maybe that's not a question as much as a point to make for all of us to discuss. I'm not trying to make you answer my question.
Well, for me, I think it's a reasonable assumption that if they were if this schedule is based on assessed valuation growth. I mean, that's how the legislature intended it when it started. I haven't looked at the date on this, but I'm guessing it's probably old enough that they didn't think anybody's assessed valuation would go over a certain point, and that's why it ended at a certain point. But somebody's gonna have to make a motion if we're going to consider that or not consider that.
I'd be glad to make a motion if the participants in the room would express their idea of what the appropriate amount would be. And I think using this statute's, what are they calling this? This sliding scale in the statute. Maybe I'd ask the auditor her opinion if we were to use this as kind of a base, or to use this as a starting point for our discussion now, and possibly make a motion. What would that amount be?
Well, if you extended out the table, we would have increased, it's $2,000 for every additional 150,000.
150 million.
150 million in assessed valuation,
Right.
which Larry, what is our assessed valuation for 2021?
$1,529,813,471. I think that's correct.
Yeah, because the salary chart had the 2020 assessed valuation, and we were at 1499 at that point, so we were close last year, but not quite.
So using the scale, what would be the matching salary line at this point for 1.5 billion?
Well,
It would,
I'm
it
guessing-
would be the 61,000 as the base salary. So it depends
With the-
on what you, yeah,
with the COLAs on top of that.
right. So essentially, I think you're saying that your salary would increase by the $2,000. Cause you would keep the COLAs that you have earned in the past. But I,
So is that like 2,000 to 3,000 more?
I think it would be $2,000 if you went by the scale.
Okay.
But you have to do it in percentage.
Yeah.
So it'd be like 3%. You have to do it in percentage.
Okay.
You can't do it by dollar amount.
Right.
It has to be done in percentage.
So that looks like to me it's 2% approximately then.
Do you know what that percentage is? I thought
Off
it
of the
was
61?
A percent off our current wage?
It would be percentage to your current.
To your current.
If I could use the right salary. More like 3.
3%.
Yeah.
1% would be $650.
3% would be 1,961.38.
And then, as a hypothetical, if we made a motion and it passed today for 2%, 2 years from now, then the salary commission, one would assume, would be, faithfully and consistently obligated to give the next round of elected officials a 2%. And in 2 years, that 2% will be at the rate of inflation right now, which is between 4% and 5%, we're actually losing ground. So some of us might think that 2% right now would be the appropriate motion. I would throw onto the table the idea of something a little higher than that to compensate for two things. One is the 4+% of inflation we're experiencing right now and is expected to be out there for some period of time. And then also the idea that there's a 2-year duration before the next crop of elected officials goes to the polls and then comes back if they're victorious, and that new increase would apply to them. So I think it's more in the range of 3 or 4% to compensate for those two considerations, inflation and the length of time that would pass before the other half of us is even available, that the new raise would be available to them, that would apply to them.
So just a question. Could you do it as a flat dollar amount since we're all the same salary? Because it would be the same percentage for everyone, even if you did it as a flat dollar amount.
But you still, it says, the statute says you have to do it by percent. It has to be by percent. Can't be by dollar.
So I could take my percentage out to 12 decimal places to get it
Whatever
to
you
be
wanna do,
exactly.
yeah. Doesn't limit to that, but.
Steve, where
Where
is
is
that?
this?
Where's that percentage?
50.333.
333 or 3?
333.
Oh, I didn't give that one out. Yeah.
Eric, something I'd like to point out is I don't think, and this is from past salary commission meetings, the next salary commission that meets has any obligation to this commission. And they can change anything and everything that was done during this term.
Agreed, that's how the statute reads. I look around the room and see people who are responsible and forward-thinking, and I can't imagine that they would vote for something now and then vote against, you know, their fellow officers not getting what they got 2 years previously. So I agree with you, but I know who's in the room. I feel comfortable with the idea of doing that. Otherwise, we'd never get it right.
So it says, if the salary commission votes to increase compensation, all officers or officers whose compensation is being considered by the commission at that time shall receive the same percentage of the maximum allowable compensation.
But if everyone's currently the same amount, you give them a flat dollar, they are receiving the same percentage. I mean, I don't know that you have to make the motion as a percent.
Such increase shall be expressed as a percentage of the compensation being paid during the term of office when the vote is taken, and each officer or officers whose compensation is being established by the salary commission at that time shall receive the same percentage increase over the compensation being paid for that office during the term when the vote is taken.
So name the amount and then give it a corollary,
Yeah, the percentage.
corresponding percentage.
So if we do a flat amount, will they come and spank us or what?
Well, that's what you'd be
We
breaking
just
law.
convert it to a percentage.
I mean, I don't know.
Breaking a law
I
that
would have
has
to-
no repercussions, then
I mean, you have to do it by percentage. What's the big deal? You do you do COLAs by percentage, so.
well, the assessed valuation salary jumps in flat amounts, so, I mean, apparently they
Yeah,
looked at flat amounts too, so.
I guess I agree with Jeff, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you if I did, but if the schedule was set this way in $2,000 increments, that wasn't a percentage.
Yeah, and that was wrote in 2005. And this was done in, this was updated in 2018 is when it was
You can
changed.
have both, you just convert one into a percentage.
I mean, they did it by increments back when they did it by assessed value, and now that the salary commission, you don't do it, you're supposed to do it by percentage, so. I don't know what the big deal is. You can say 4% and still have the same amount, or 3% and still come up with the same dollar amount,
Well,
close to it.
kinda, sort of, you won't, because your associate commissioners won't be the same percent or difference between the presiding commissioner as has been before.
So you could do 0.03059057% gives you $1,999.99.
Second.
So where are we at right now? Is there a motion on the floor?
Well, I make a motion that the incoming elected officials in January 1st, 2023 receive a 4% pay increase.
Second.
Locke says he can vote, but he has to step out of court, so.
So 4% is amounting to about,
$3,000.
yep,
I need my adding machine.
And that's for the next 5
about
years.
2,600.
65, 379, 62 times 0.04.
So is that based on it?
2,615, 18.
So is that based on it being, not taking effect for a couple of years and adding some onto it, or, I mean, what was wrong with 2% or 3% or any of those numbers? I guess the 4%.
4%, ours
Just
won't
a-
go into effect for another year, and then theirs won't go into effect for 2 years, 3 years. 3 years before theirs goes in.
Well, this group, it would be January of 2023, and the next group, January of 2025.
Yeah, so it'd be several years down the road.
Inflation's gonna wipe out.
Is there a second to the motion?
Yes, somebody
Steve
did.
second.
Eric,
He made the
Second.
motion.
Oh, then
Eric
Eric
seconded.
seconded.
Okay. You got
So roll call?
it. Wait. Discussion first.
so you're still getting COLAs and the 4% in 23 and 25, well, 25 is not necessarily have to happen, but.
You don't know what you'll get in 2023, if you'll get any COLA or not.
You don't know what the COLA's gonna be January of '22 either.
Well, no, they have to decide that, yeah.
But if there's a factor in that, I would think it would factor into this 4%. Just my opinion.
We're working on the budget. Nothing's set in stone. The goal,
There's a motion made to do a 4% pay increase, so we're discussing it.
Okay, and is that, so is that the COLA, or is that for the,
Just an increase in salary and the elected officials
Salary
coming
increase.
in. Yeah,
4% increase? Okay,
yeah, in 2023.
gotcha.
It's actually for those who take office on or after.
The ones that are elected next year.
I mean, but it's also the ones.
I'll be right in there, Judge.
2 years later. This is a raise for anyone who takes office on or after 1/1/20.
I believe that, because I think 50.327 says any raise you give has to be for every elected official. So if we do 4%, you all get it automatically.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I don't know, I'm not an attorney, but that's what I read.
And when is that shows up? Is it on the next election?
Yes, in your term of office, whenever your term of office comes, so you won't get to till September. You won't get it till March. So it's on your incumbency or your term.
And on the date of your new election?
Right, yeah.
I think we went round and round about that though.
23/25.
So you're
Right now,
saying,
you get the COLAs as of 1/1,
Right,
but is that just COLAs?
just COLAs.
Okay.
so then for, so presiding will be up in '23. Sam or whoever takes his place will get the raise. And then in 2 years, Harry and I will be up. And then the percentages are gonna be different again, and everybody's gonna be misaligned, or,
Well, and your guys is a different beast anyway. Yeah, so if,
but what about the other ones that have the same election cycle as we do? So,
I don't think.
so Ralph's will be different, cause his isn't set by 2,000 under the presiding.
Correct. The way you fix that, if you're trying to keep all your children equal, is you make it effective 1/1/25. Because then everybody gets a raise on the same day. But because the statute says you can't raise your salary during your term of office, that's why this crazy staggering happens.
Right.
But didn't we talk about this, Kristen? that-
yeah, I mean, it was an idea I threw out that if you waited and did midterm for the people that are elected in 2023, so it would be the beginning of the people that are elected in 2025. If everybody changed in 2025, everyone would change at the same time.
Because the increase was set before you ever ran for that office.
Right, because we're voting it before any of us have run. It would make the next salary commission meeting very easy, because you would confirm what you did the previous one.
That's not what the statute says. The statute says you're voting for the people in the next term of office, so.
Does it say that? Well, maybe it can't be done the way you and I thought.
Yeah, maybe not.
It can't be done evenly.
Okay.
The only way you can do it is
Well-
in 2 years from now, if our salaries is much more, then you vote in an increase to equalize again. You don't have to stick with the 4% in 3 years from now. You can vote in a 1% to go with the 4% to equalize it.
The legislature can cure it for the county too.
They won't. They did it for the sheriff, but they won't do it for us.
Because we're not packing heat.
We don't have a loaded gun on our.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, no comment necessary. We're being recorded, did we change that? This is a recorded meeting, so.
No comment.
All right.
Okay, so here's a question. So Larry, I heard that the assessed valuation is 1.5 billion and change, which puts us at 61,000.
If you extended the table.
but we make 65, and that's because of the COLAs.
COLAs, yeah. So this is base salary here
Yeah,
in the table.
so aren't we at where we need to be? That's what I'm asking. Or am I looking at it wrong?
It depends on whether you include those COLAs or you don't.
See, to me, that's abstract. I can't connect with that.
So when we adjusted the salaries in 16, our base salary was 59. But we added the COLAs that would have been received from the point that we went to 59 to get us to what the salary was for each elected official.
Okay.
So I think you have to, I think just like we vote, you vote the COLA separately, but that's just my opinion. I'm one of 12.
Well, the statute doesn't talk about COLAs. I mean, I thought it's been most of our understanding all these years that there's the base salary and then there's the COLA. We all agree it's messed up. I think that's why Ralph's having a hard time
Yeah.
looking at the statute and then figuring out how we got to where we are and why do we want more?
I mean, here's another thought. I know the public administrator is not on the agenda, but I'm looking at this chart. The two counties on this chart that I'm confident are comparable to Cole would be Cape Girardeau and St. Francois. Francois. If you add these two together and divide by 2, that's 84,000 and change a year.
I think 74.
Or 74, I'm sorry, 74 for the public administrator. So like the public administrator in Cole County makes 65 and change. So that tells me that the public administrator in Cole County for these 3 counties that should be average is below average. But on the other hand, I don't know what the case load for St. Francois County is, nor do I know what it is for Cape Girardeau. It might be higher, it might be lower. And then if you apply that same logic to what I'm trying to get at, with presiding commissioner, collector, clerk, auditor, recorder, I mean, I'm still don't have much of a perspective.
Well, Ralph, on top of that, with inflation right now around 5%, that gap between San Francisco County and St. Girardeau County versus Cole County will only increase because they have shown through the years, their salary commission, let's say, consistency and courage to keep those salaries in line with inflation and with their ever-increasing assessed valuation.
Right.
We, on the other hand, have neglected it on and off through the years, which is why we are where we are. And part of it is we want to abide by the state statute. I mean, we don't want to be seen as operating beyond that.
Right.
But nonetheless, it's a pickle that St. Francis done.
It's a conundrum.
Conundrum.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor for 4%. Motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
So why can't the amounts be different? Some of these counties do have different amounts for different ones.
I think in the ones you're seeing different, well,
Cass, Lincoln, Newton are 3 of them that,
so in
Are all
Cass
over the board.
County, I think they must have increased one group the last time. So like you can see the people we're not talking about this time are higher, so I would say they're in, this time they will vote the other group to go up. If you look at Cass, that looks to be the case. That looks to be the case in possibly Lincoln County as well. Maybe
If
not,
we
theirs
did-
are all over.
If we were to adopt this motion, we'll show up as a little bit.
Yes.
Some other county will ask what's happening in Cole,
Yes, so ours would show up different for 2 years until you got to the point where you got back to equalized.
Hey, let me throw one quirk out there so that it's in the minutes, that in 2 years when we meet, if inflation continues where it is, there is a possibility that some of us in this room 2 years from now, assuming we're all here, in 2 years, or the next salary commission meeting, that inflation will have taken such a bite out of the dollar and out of our wages and county employees' wages that we might see fit, instead of trying in 2 years to match what we're doing now, is to actually compensate for inflation bite that's taken out of our pay, our, the dollar or the value of our salaries. And so instead of having, say, a 4% with some adjustment in 2 years, we might actually see a motion to do something a little larger than that, looking forward to 2 years later, if you can see what I'm saying. If inflation continues, that right now it's like a 5.39% today, right now it's 5.39%. If that continues through the rest of this year, 2022, right up until our next meeting, or a good way into it, the next couple of the next cycle, let's say, I'm just saying we need to remember that there's a possibility we won't want to match what we're doing today. We'll want to match it and then also anticipate 2 years later. So there could be a 5 or 6% on the table in 2 years' time. I know most of you all probably either don't think that way or maybe just outright disagree with it, but when's the last time we all sat around in a room talking about inflation that really whacks away at county employees and county elected officials, the power of the dollar, the value of the dollar. And I think that's a discussion we'll be having in the future, because we haven't had to worry about inflation for a generation now. So, but we will, and it'll be something we'll talk about next time, in 2 years from now, so. Anyway.
Any further discussion? If not, are you all ready to vote?
Okay. Harry,
No.
Sam,
No.
Jeff,
No.
Chris,
No.
Kristen,
No.
Larry,
No?
Steve,
Yes.
Locke's not here, Ralph,
No.
Judy,
No.
John,
Abstain.
Harry. Harry.
Pardon me.
Make sure you're awake. Yep.
Okay, motion fails. Are there any other business, any other motions?
I have a question. Why am I asking first?
It's supposed to actually rotate.
Block or-
It's supposed to rotate
Left to
after.
right.
So after she does the first one, it's supposed to go down to Sam, and then next time to me.
First, I'll say no. Gary?
Just curiosity, do you start with you just started in whatever?
The newbie, yeah, the newbie.
And then the next time around, it's supposed to rotate, though.
Oh.
It'd be Sam first, and you'd get to go last.
I'll do Sam first.
Okay, no.
But never make me go
It
first.
didn't matter, I was more of a curiosity.
We're just trying to change the subject. You gotta get something shiny, get us back in order now.
Are there any other motions? Any other business? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded?
I heard it.
All those in,
Roll call.
oh,
I'll be listening in.
I'm gonna Sam then,
Yes.
then Harry,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Larry,
yes.
Steve going. Locke's here, not here, Ralph,
Yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Wheeler,
Yes.
That's what I thought. I was like, what?
So if I were to say no,
We are adjourned. Thank you.
all right. Did you know you were gonna be elected? Guy, you did a good
I
job.
kinda had a feeling.